Teaching, it's about inspiration, not information. Theodore Roosevelt said, "No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care." This is an important reminder that teaching is all about building relationships with students. In today's world, with information at our fingertips, we don't have to go to school to learn facts and figures or quick Google search. A look at Wikipedia or a question asked to Siri will usually yield answers to specific questions. So why go to school? What is the role of teachers? Learning is really about inspiration, not information. Effective teaching focuses on why and how, not what. The goal should be to spark each student's imagination, to find the hook in their heart and mind so they feel the need to learn the material. The rest is easy, because the student is then the driver of his or her learning. The teacher's job is to ask provocative questions and help students find their way to the answers. If they are motivated to find the path, they will chart it for themselves. If the teacher has to pull out a mental machete to discover the path, then he has not done his job. How to motivate students? It's much easier to tap into a student's motivation if they know it matters to them personally. In large lecture classes in college, where the goal is to put every student on the grade curve, students routinely turn in far less than they can. They feel like a cog in the machine because no one cares how anyone learns. In contrast, students do better in small discussion classes. It's so meaningful when the professor looks you in the eye and responds to specific comments or questions. In these classes, the students force themselves to learn, no one has to push them. Not surprisingly, it's better to continue learning in small classes with a fully engaged teacher. It is also important not to make assumptions about what students already know. If you do that, you will lose those who don't have the necessary basic skills. That you should teach a 5-year-old as well as a 25-year-old. You start at the beginning, build on a solid foundation, and go as far as you can with each student. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're teaching how to keep airplanes in the air. You can start by making paper airplanes, which a 5-year-old can do. You ask the students to make different models and see which one flies the farthest. As they get older and more mature, you can take this exploration further and eventually lead them to a wind tunnel lab where specific parameters are measured, including forces, angles, and drag. By starting at the beginning, you create a solid foundation that each student can build on long into the future. Without it, they are likely to have holes in their knowledge that will inevitably lead to them not being able to apply their knowledge and skills later on. Find a connection to students' lives and make the material immediately relevant. Without this, the content is like a puzzle piece that is not connected to the rest of the student's growing picture of how the world works. The student doesn't know why it's important, has trouble learning it, and quickly discards it when the lesson is over. It's not hard. If you're teaching a child physics, you can connect its principles to baseball or hockey. If you're teaching history, you can connect it to current events and personalities. If you're teaching chemistry, you can connect it to the food we eat. If you're teaching business, you can connect it to local businesses and founders. If you're teaching music theory, you can connect it to currently popular songs, etc. Actually, I don't know why we don't do this more often. I believe that if a child is only interested in baseball or fishing, there are ways to build an entire curriculum around each of those topics, including history, physics, writing, and art. Finally, never tell kids what they have to do to get an A in a class. If you do, they will inevitably do the bare minimum to get the required grade. Instead, tell them to never miss an opportunity to be wonderful. The teacher should give their best in every lesson, and expect the same from the children. Children are hungry for permission to give their best, to hit the ball and shine their brightest. It's relatively easy to meet expectations when you know exactly what you're going to get in return. But when you let go of the limit, amazing things happen. Like a shaken bottle of soda, individuals who remove perceived limits achieve remarkable results in and out of the classroom. It's up to teachers to light the fuse and see what happens. As William Butler Yeats said, education is not filling a bucket, but lighting a fire. In this case, it's education.